And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Welcome in to RBLR Sports. My name is Musaab, and I am nothing but happy and thankful you could join us for this episode. Another week without some Tampa Bay football, but listeners, it's time to start having that glasses half full mentality instead of having that glasses half empty kind of mentality. All right? Hour by hour, day by day, week by week, we are getting closer to the start of another season. All right? Believe me when I say that time is about to fly. All right. And speaking of half empty, half full, yada yada, joining me is the other half to this legendary episode. Ladies and gentlemen, Santiago, my friend, how we doing tonight?
Musaab, it's awesome to have you back. To hear that voice, that legendary voice here on RBLR Sports. How you doing, RBLR Nation? It's been a good week. Yeah, I agree with Musaab. Like we're in the off season right now for our Tampa Bay Buccaneers, for NFL football in general, but it will never stop. It's even when it's off season, when there are no games playing at the moment on Fox, on CBS, and there's no NFL Red Zone, but we're still doing this, and we will definitely not stop till the draft and everything. So I'm excited. Love American football. Love this sport. That's why Musab loves it too, and we love to give it to you. So we definitely are excited for this legendary episode.
Amen to that, Santiago. Listeners, if you could do us a favor, and however you're listening to this, whether it be on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, there's probably a follow button, a like button, or a subscribe button. And also, we are on all social media platforms at RBLR Sports. All right. Hey, I'm gonna tell you this, Santiago. Little quote of the day. The man said the man used to say it himself. All right, defense wins championships. All right, well, let's talk defense then, huh? All right, well, Santiago, let's just dig right into it. I guess I want to hear your overall thoughts, maybe overall grade. I mean, listen, we went quite far, for compared to a lot of teams, Santiago. So, I mean, the way I see is, listen, we did pretty darn well. But Santiago, overall, maybe review the defense, and then we'll kind of go position by position.
The Bucs here in our Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we've always been known. That's why there's a famous Tampa too. Because Tampa Bay Buccaneers are well known for their defense throughout the year. So, you're right. I agree with you, Musa. Defense does win championships, and I would have loved to have a third Vince Lombardi trophy in the trophy case. That did not come around this past year. Injuries and just just many different things that had occurred to some of our top stars. But overall, we went to the playoffs, and that's always a positive. And that's what we definitely want to do from now on is keep doing that, making it to the playoffs and fighting and trying to get back to to the Super Bowl to win a Vince Lombardi and leave a legacy. We have many different legendary players that are not at the legendary status yet, of course, because they are young in their careers. However, we do have some well-known football players, defensive linemen, Vita Vea being one of them, the big defensive lineman that we have from Tonga. He's not Samoan, he's Tongan. So those are different nations, island nations, but he is a big boy. So I'll start off with that specific name. What do you think about Vita Vea, Musa? What do you think?
I mean, the whole defense was to be reckoned with. I mean, when everything clicked together, and minus the whole injuries and COVID, um, people like Vita Vea were a very big part of the whole defensive equation, game by game, week by week. And all I have to really say is, I mean, it's really nice to see, and I'm really glad to just see him do pretty darn well. You know, he really shined, and he was definitely a really important factor overall. I mean, um, sure, you know, kind of stats wise, you know, he didn't look all pretty and all that, but believe me, if you're a real Buck fan, I mean, you are seeing it kind of play by play. You know, there's been times that this guy, Santiago, has been used at the goal line. You know, sometimes there's just plays where it's just like, oh, we need like 1 yard, you know? And you're like, all right, you know what? We need someone to clear the way for playoff Lenny or Rojo or et cetera, et cetera. And who can be the guy? That's Vita Vea. So, piggybacking off of what you're saying, he is nothing but just an absolute beast on the field, and our whole D line has been looking pretty darn hot. You know, ups and downs we've had because of COVID injuries, this or that. But it's never like I've ever thought to myself, Santiago, yikes, you know, this team or, you know, these guys are kind of playing bad or whatever. Sure, maybe sometimes they have a hard time against some good opponents like the
Yeah,
Rams or, you know, maybe like even the Bills. But overall, though, I mean, they are a force to be reckoned with, as I've already said before about Vita Vea. But uh, the D line to me right now, or you know, this past season, and as of right now, is looking really darn good. I guess maybe when we dig deeper and deeper, you know, we think about okay, well, who these guys kind of backups because these things like backups or depth pieces, whether it be on the D line or DBs or whatever, they they came into the equation this season for sure. So, um, you know, it just makes me think, all right, well, hey, listen, our starters, yeah, they did very well this season, but there were times that, you know, some of them had to, you know, go in and out for whatever reason. And sometimes those created some slips and, you know, we'll kind of dive more into it soon. But um Santiago, I guess I kind of know. Listen, mine is Vita Vea. Maybe was there anyone else who kind of stood out? And we can kind of maybe also think about the whole kind of free agency slash who's staying equation as well. All right, because Santiago, I mean, right now what? Sue, Golston, Mcclendon, and what? Pat O'Connor. So we got two starters, two backups. All right, and you know they're about to kind of hit that little free agency market. So I don't know. You know, it kind of leaves some holes. What you think?
yeah. I mean, when we have like well-known players on in this, you know, we're looking at our defense right now. Well-known players that pretty much any other team would love to have in their ranks. It's they're going to be. They are a hot commodity at the moment. They are a hot commodity. So, I mean, they would rather, and they're NFL veteran players. So, I mean, they have, you know, and then, so, I mean, looking at, some of the players that you see there, like, Ndamukong Suh, for example, he's a veteran. So, you know, next would be how much is he asking for to stay? Uh, maybe is he going to get what he's been what he's been earning, or are we going to go for cheap? Um, what do you think? I mean, let's look at a player like Sue, uh, Musaab. Like, do you think how much do you think how much do you think he will come back for example?
Yeah, those are kind of some big questions for sure indeed. Um, I mean, at least for Sue, I mean, definitely a lot for sure. Just because I mean, this is Sue we're talking about. But you know, the interesting thing I seem to have noticed with all these guys, or actually this past season, is that we don't have too much, I guess, young defensive line, kind of talent. All right, we don't have those kind of young dogs. All right, you know what? Sue, Golston, Mcclendon, Pat O'Connor. These guys have been here for a while, so Sue's gonna come at a cost, but the other guys, um, it just comes down to maybe what, maybe we have to let him go. Now Golston, I can vouch for Santiago. But Mcclendon, sure, he's had our back at times. Respectfully, Pat O'Connor, I'm sure he's done a great job whenever he needed to, but nothing has ever really stood out for me from him. So if need be, Santiago, it's okay if we have to let those guys go, but then once we do, that's gonna be that's gonna be one of those top priorities for sure. All right. Obviously, everyone's always yipping and yapping about the whole quarterback situation, but if something like this, where Sue goes to McClendon and Pat O'Connor are gone, then it's like yikes. We're gonna have to rebuild on that D line for sure. Depth pieces are important. Maybe that was the lesson of this whole past season. Depth pieces are important slash just kind of play by play or whatever. But um, for me, the D line right now is, at first you're thinking yes, it's looking nice, but then when you kind of dig deep into it and you're thinking, oh, all right, well, people like we have some free agents. Um, you know, this could be an issue because we don't want the kind of young raw talent because it could be a hit or miss. But also, we don't want to be just spending way too much on the wrong players or whatever either. So I guess it's kind of yin and yang, 50-50. So my thing is just to, I think we're going to have to make some moves in the D line for sure. Um,
Yeah, I agree.
with
I
all these
mean,
guys, I mean, are there any people maybe on the top of your head that you're thinking, whether they be free agents or whether they're, kind of returners, that you kind of just wanted to maybe pinpoint on and why they're relevant?
I mean, since you've been naming quite a few players, on the D line, like a William Golson, like a Steve McClendon, for example. Those two players specifically, they're unrestricted free agents. So, I mean, also, a Pat O'Connor, he's a restricted free agent. So, you're right. A lot of, these players, they have a lot of years in the NFL. So it's like you're saying right there, uh, Musab. Like they have a lot of miles, right? So I mean, do you want like a younger, you know, defensive player maybe that comes from in the comes out of the draft or because everybody looking at the free agent at the market out there right now, it's there are a lot of there's a lot of if you look at NFL Network, they're always talking about, you're right, the quarterbacks, but then you really have to kind of dig deeper um, into players that are not talked about more frequently. For example, of course, when we were talking about Vita Vea earlier, he's more of a well known player for us because of everything that he's done, right? But also he got the new 4-year contract, and that just for like 70, it was like over 70 million a year, 70 million. I'm sorry, but it's just So I mean, all these other players here, when I look at for example, like let's see like a Steve McClendon. He's a big boy. He's a very, very big boy. He's a man. He's not a child. So he does offer a lot, and we do have to protect the next quarterback. Whether we've spoken about quarterbacks in the beginning, or the hot quarterbacks that are coming out like Russell Wilson. Supposedly he's on the move, and maybe some it depends. Like an Aaron Rodgers, he's on the move as well. So it's I would love to see one of those veteran quarterbacks come here. because I want to see the stadium filled again. Keep getting filled, and then keep going to the playoffs because they have those two quarterbacks specifically have the NFL experience. So, again, going to what I was saying, Steve Mcclendon, this past year, he actually he hasn't really played that much, to be honest with you. Honestly, 12 games, but 0 starts. So back this year, 2021. So, I mean, maybe we're going to look at some other players that have more, that may have more starts, possibly. I don't know how, what, I don't know exactly, and maybe you can help me on this, Musab, like, when you're looking for an actual player, specifically in that type of position, which is in the front line, for example, to protect the quarterback, are you looking, because injuries are very prone to happen, right? They can occur. Are you looking at, a veteran player but may not get a lot because of injuries, or do you want a young buck that can handle it, that can hang in there the most? I mean, what do you think we should look for?
And when you say hang in there the most, you mean, are you saying
Like take a pounding, more of a take a pounding. When I'm saying that, is not gonna, can literally play, the whole season without any type of an issue, because when you get up in age, what happens? And these players and these our Buccaneers, we have to go. Depending on who we're playing, we play in hot weather, we play in in the cold weather and stuff like that. So that does take a factor. When you're when you are when you're aging, when you're getting up there in age, for example. Or do you want a player that is kind of fresh? Obviously, we want NFL experience, yes, but like you're saying yourself, you're saying that it looks like we may have to do a shakeup on this on this defensive line. So, would you rather have more fresh new faces, or would you rather still keep what we have, for another year, for example, because we want to attract a top end quarterback like an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson? I mean, what would you like to happen?
Yeah, I guess as I said before, I think we're gonna have to invest a little bit into the free agent market, at least financially wise, or what, even in the draft as well, just because we don't have that kind of young talent, at least prioritized in the D line, as we had this past year with the draft. Um, but with the case right now, we're just gonna have to see. Listen, I mean, there's kind of four relevant names in the market, and I am not surprised. As I won't be surprised if at least half of them have to leave or they're here, whatever. I don't know. It just maybe it just comes down to a point where these kind of things are maybe discussed maybe in the office or whatever. But we're gonna have to make some changes for sure. I don't know what that means if we get rid of one guy, three guys, two guys. I don't know. Maybe all of them. I don't know. Maybe a fresh start. Not exactly a fresh start, but at least with the whole free agency market and draft, fresh start. But I guess I want to know, Santiago. I mean, we might have to do some fresh starts, if not now, but very soon, in the kind of linebacker area. All right, because our current free agents right now are Kevin Minter and JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, and I don't know. I mean, well, listen. How about this? How about we start out with, before we kind of dig deep on, these guys kind of being in the market. Overall thoughts, the the whole linebacker situation this past season. How do we feel right now with everyone's performance? Listen, I mean, come on, Santiago, and to all of our listeners, you best believe that I have been the biggest advocate for Devin White to win Defensive Player of the Year. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But yeah, this is not my position, but yeah, this is one of my top guys' position, and there's a possibility he may lose his friends. I don't know. What do you think, Santiago?
Well, honestly, when I look at the linebacker position, I mean, yeah, I mean, JPP is a veteran. He's a Super Bowl champion, with us, and he's a Super Bowl champion with the New York Giants. So he's a very, very important player, that I would love to still keep on the team. And he's a local boy, he's a local man. He's a local player. He graduated from the University of South Florida. So, I mean, also Kevin Minter, yeah, he's also a very, very important player. I mean, but as well, we do have a good core of linebackers that are coming back next year, like stars like Shaq Barrett, stars like Devin White, just to name a few, right? Levante David, for example. Those three are super important for us, and to keep. And and we know that they're coming back next year. So I mean, we have young bucks like Joe Tryon. Like he was drafted last year, and he did very well. I mean, he played very, very good in his first year in the NFL. So I I honestly believe myself if a JPP leaves, we still have a good core there to that I wouldn't, maybe we can go younger and then but because we do have a good core. That's just my opinion. Like I believe that it's difficult to let go of a veteran like that, but um it's again, if I was to say that we were going to lose Shaq Barrett or even Levante David or Devin White, then I would be very nervous, because of those three players specifically. But we are not going to lose them. So I mean, would you like? Do you want? What do you think about that, Musa? Do you think like would you be okay with or very would you want to see JPP back maybe because of his age? Would you want to go younger? I mean, what's your overall take on that?
Overall take, at least kind of linebacker wise, is yeah. Listen, they're not perfect, but I find every single one of those guys, and I'll say people like what David, of course, D White, JPP, and Kevin Minter, all four of those guys, very very important pieces. Seriously, all right, even Minter. And with the situation right now, with these guys two, as these two as free agents, JPP, Kevin Minter, um, I guess my intention is to try to be as logical as possible because I just feel like we were able to scrape through some things, luckily, with keeping everyone. But uh, things are about to get a little bit real, Santiago. That's the kind of way I see it, and that means ideally we will be able to keep one of them. I don't know what exactly how that's going to work out, et cetera, et cetera. But both of those guys are very valuable the way I see it. All right, even Kevin Minter, people don't really talk about him that much, but he did a pretty darn good job. All right, he was playing almost every single game. He racked up 40 tackles. He even got a sack. All right, so it just keeping kind of those kind of guys just because I see it actually paying off. Now I don't know financially if it's going to really work out to keep both of them or whatever. That's a whole other story. But I want to keep one of them for sure. It doesn't matter who, just because I feel like both of them are really valuable. No matter what, I'm trying to work with the best right now, Santiago, and the best is at least just getting one of those guys. Hopefully, keeping one of them. But hey, I mean, I want to give a shout out overall to our our whole linebacker unit. Did a great job, honestly. All right, D. White, David, Shaq, Barrett, uh, all these Minter, JPP, all these guys. All right, so uh, thankfully it's still gonna be looking real nice But this is just one of those kind of little chess pieces that we're gonna have to make the right move or trying to make the move to the best of our ability. But I don't know. It's not really more of me being optimistic or pessimistic, Santiago. It's more just me being all right. Well, let's just see what happens. Just because these last 2 years have definitely been an interesting roller coaster for sure, and that means on the field and off the field. All right, so we're gonna have to see how these off the field things play out. What do you think? Maybe final overall thoughts as to maybe ideally what do you see, and if we get rid of or not get rid, or if we can't keep them both or we keep them both, how do you feel?
Well, honestly, just looking at you know, some stats really, hear about, each player, right? Because, that's what people like to see. What are the numbers with their games played, like what their contributions are on the field. And, and when you look at each of them being, and I look at this overall, when you are a Super Bowl winning team, every what it wasn't just Tom Brady, what I mean, that got us to that championship. It was everybody involved, right? So, to let some of these players go, it's kind of difficult because you look at it overall and you're like, wow, but each JPP did his thing, you know, Kevin Minter also, everybody put their grain of salt and they, help us get to the mountaintop. You know, they have an amazing series called America's Game, and it's a documentary series on when the team wins a Super Bowl. They pretty much they show you like highlights of that, and they show you like the ring and everything like that. And when I look at the when I saw the episode of the Bucs and I see the ring, the shiny ring, and on that ring they have 319 diamonds. What does that mean? That was the score, 31-9. That's what that means. And when I see that and all these players contributed to that, it is very difficult to think like, wow, do we really have to let him go? Because maybe we can go to another Super Bowl with him. So it is very difficult. It is kind of difficult. Yes, they're getting up there in age, but to really pinpoint like, okay, I want this one, I want that one. It's I would love to I would love to have them both back. But you're right, Musa. It's about like what the money and what we have with the cap and it's about the negotiations and stuff like that. So hopefully if we lose one, we can go into the draft or maybe into free agency and pick somebody else out. Maybe that has a veteran. It was a veteran on his team or so I mean, there's a lot of questions that we have to look into. Yeah, I agree with you. I would love to have one or the other, whether it be Kevin Minter or JPP. I mean, but we'll see what happens. So at the end of the day, there's going to be players coming into that door and leaving, going out the door. You know what I mean? And they just have to, you know, they just have to pretty much put their and these players have, but even the new players that come in, they have to know that we're here to win championships. Super Bowls. It's not just division champions, it's Super Bowls. So, you know, other than that, what else? We can definitely, do you want to talk about anything else specifically about this like linebacker? Do you want to go on to something else right now, Musa? What would you like to do?
Yeah, well, Santiago, I guess maybe uh I guess I didn't realize it, but I guess yeah, I guess maybe we had the same kind of thought because you're saying that after the season you're thinking, oh wow, we kind of it's gonna be difficult, right, to keep all these guys. You're looking at the whole little depth chart, right, and you're thinking, oh yikes, it's difficult, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I believe it's very difficult because
Yeah,
NFL experience is NFL experience. It's not just
yeah,
college and you have the butterflies and stuff like that when you come out for your
oh
first
yeah,
game and you're thinking of like I want to get the sack or I don't want to drop a ball, but that's okay. And then a veteran's going to be like, hey kid, that's going to be okay. That's going to happen. Just make sure it doesn't happen constantly. So
yeah.
but
Well, you know
again,
what? I'll tell.
so
I'll tell you
it
this,
does.
Santiago. I'll tell you this, Santiago. There have been a lot of times that I've opened my closet and it's been a difficult choice for me to think, oh gosh, what do I need to wear, this or that? And listeners, I'm sure you can relate as well. There's been times you've opened that closet and you're thinking, oh yikes, what should I wear? Well, I got good news for you, all right? Because Santiago and to all of our listeners, liking and subscribing is free, of course, duh. But let me tell you something. If you need some new threads, some nice fresh threads, you know what I'm saying? You can support this podcast by heading on over to shop.rblrsports.com and checking out all the designs we got cooked out. All right. We got shirts in the colors of all of our beloved teams. All right. We got designs, honoring our football team, the hockey team, the soccer team, and the baseball team. All right. And you know what? I got a little special treat for you as well. Use the promo code CANNONS for 10% off your order. All right, that's CANNONS, Cannons. 10% off your order. All right. There's a link right in the description as well, so you can't miss it. All right. But you know what? I was thinking in, you know, uh, not is it just the whole linebacker D line situation that's rather difficult to think about or is causing me to scratch my head as well, but let's talk about maybe something that the way I see it, Santiago, has been the chit chatter for a while. And it doesn't matter if it's just because we had a beautiful game or an ugly game. There's always something to say about our whole DB unit. And I guess I want to kind of dig deep in, starting with our cornerbacks. Um, just if I had to say in and out with those linebackers or D line, uh, this is when I really, really mean it. Seriously, man, we were getting guys, Santiago, out of nowhere that I was like, oh, okay, all right. Hey, listen, I guess that's what we need to do, huh? All right, people like Sherman. Whoa. Buddy's sitting on his couch, and then boom, out of nowhere, he's got the opportunity to be playing with Brady and the Bucs. Wow, all right. So just things like those, Santiago, or just overall, overall thoughts of the cornerback situation this past season, and then we'll kind of talk about the future.
Well, again, when I look at overall cornerbacks for what we have, I mean, you know, players like Ross Cockrell, Jamel Dean, Dee Delaney, Sean Murphy Bunting, or his famous, and it's always, and every time I see the name, yeah, Sean Murphy Bunting, I'm glad that he's coming back, because he's a very important key, to our, he's he's probably the best player that we had last year, as a cornerback. And then when I think about, another, like some other players like, when I see defensive backs, like Anton Winfield Jr., like the deuce too, throwing up the twos, um, but overall, I see that I'm glad that there's a core that's coming back, like us, because we need to keep that. When I look at also like the unrestricted free agents, we have like Carlton Davis, for example. Uh, Again, the beautiful thing about what Tom Brady did, and it was only the second time in history to do, is that every player came back. So when that last year occurred, it was like, wow, We didn't really have to talk about like who's coming back, who's staying, who's going, everything. It was just that, everybody came back. They did magic and keeping out. Now it's like we all know, and we've been talking about that. It's different now. So it's about trying to see who is healthy enough, who's not dealing with injuries, like who can do who can be cheaper, who can renegotiate what they were given before. That really I don't know how. That's a pretty interesting job, I would have to say, trying to negotiate all that. So, with Jason Light and everything. So, what he has to do and make magic happen. But overall, would you want me to give it a grade? Do you want to go player by player? What would you like to do, Musab? I mean, do you want to go talk about maybe Sean Murphy Bunting, D.
Well,
Delaney, Jamel Dean, Ross
listen,
Cockrell?
yeah, Santiago. I mean, what's your overall grade slash, maybe some guys who stood out, who are, I guess, maybe more relevant to the equation. I mean, you've already kind of pinpointed one guy, Carlton Davis. Uh, but I mean, yeah, even people like Sean Murphy Bunting as well, or even Ross Cockrell as well. Uh, Anyone else you maybe wanted to highlight, or maybe, maybe you just want to give an overall grade. It's kind of all up to you.
When I give an overall grade, um, I would like to see what grade you would like to give it first. I mean, what grade would you like to give it? As an overall, or maybe players. I know you told me, but I want to hear you first.
Well, you know what, Santiago, I have to give it. I'm actually gonna give it an A. Just because of what we had, and we were still able to make it work out. Um, First of all, I mean, people like Jamel Dean, Murphy Bunting, Carlton Davis, they've been shining, so those dudes have been doing a great job. But people then, like Ross Cockrell stepping up to the plate. All right, Pierre Desir. I don't know where D. Delaney and Richard Sherman. And you know what? There's even been times someone like Rashard Robinson is even relevant. All right. So, um, I'll say this. I'm gonna give it an A minus just because of what we were needing to work with. For every team, I feel like it's been a roller coaster with injuries, and then on top of that, COVID. And one of the more costly things or costly people you can lose is a good cornerback. All right, so when one of your guys has to step out, and then backup has to come in, or you just snag this guy, and now he has to come in. It You're hoping for the best. You really shouldn't have it. That many expectations, or really any expectations at all. Um, but my overall grade has to be A minus for sure. No, I guess maybe it's just thinking like someone like Carlton Davis, who's gonna be a free agent. What we're gonna do with him, but there are things definitely needed to be kind of worked on. I would not mind some young talent indeed, just because of what the cornerback situation is. Yes, we were able to scrape through it. Just because I gave him an A minus, I'm gonna say scrape through it. All right, yeah, but for sure there's gonna be needed some changes needed to be made, uh, and I guess a little bit has to do with Carlton Davis. So, listen, when it comes to the whole cornerback situation, the way I see it, Santiago, he's definitely the big elephant in the room with the kind of cornerback free agent situation. All right. So, uh, whether he returns kind of through an extension, or, maybe through a franchise tag, we're gonna need to also focus on the future as well. All right. So, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, you know. I want to give my grade when I'm looking at, you're right. What we had to deal with because of injuries and just, players being replaced and, like what happened at the end of the game versus the Rams. We tied the game. Everybody was pumped up and everything. And then all of a sudden, it was just a huge pass by Matthew Stafford, and they scored the winning field goal like with seconds left, on the clock. So that was actually very, very sour. So my grade, and it's not just because of one game, I'm going to give it an A. We've definitely learned as a team how to come together, how to, understand each other, and and play like a winning team. Not play like something that Mike Evans said, before Tom Brady ever got there, or even Bruce Arians. Like the Buccaneers were a team that were well known for. They had very good players, very good stats, but because of like I would say, stupid plays, defensive, just flags being thrown everywhere, defensive, fouls and stuff, they were, other teams would take advantage and score touchdowns, and the Buccaneers would be blown out. So at least now, we've done so well that, that we're not making those mistakes, right? It's that's very, very important not to do, and to be mature and not, do a stupid foul that's going to cost us, get the other team a first down, or a penalty or something, face mask or something, it's just unnecessary roughness on the player, on the quarterback or something, it's just something that we've learned. You were talking about how, do we need to go younger, or, maybe keep the same? I'm not sure. It's I don't know. I really don't. To be honest with you, I would have to I want to see what's going to happen within the next couple of weeks. I mean, up to all the way up to the draft to see uh, what we get in the draft, and what they're looking for. Because um, definitely I would love to for us to get you know because obviously injuries can happen a lot in football. So we definitely, yeah, we have to have, or I think, I don't know, like, what do you think? I mean, do you think we should? It's very tough because I mean we did suffer quite a bit. Let's say in the Rams game, because of some of the injuries that we had.
Yeah, Santiago. I mean, the way I see it is, with the whole cornerback situation, it is definitely ideally from the top of my head. If someone says, "Hey, listen, we have to draft some players tomorrow for the Buccaneers," I'm definitely thinking of a DB in those kind of first few rounds or whatever. And I only say that just because, yeah, we need to change it up. We need to add some trustworthy, raw, young talent. All right, someone who can kind of build off on this. To all of our listeners and fans, the way I see it, and even to you, Santiago, um, there are some things we're gonna need to have to work on, and it may be a little bit ugly. But time will tell, and the only thing I'm kind of hoping for is that at least with the cornerback situation, I feel like we need to snag a trustworthy player. All right, and that's okay if I don't find out anytime soon. But what I do have to say is, we need more trustworthy depth in that kind of cornerback room, just because it was we kind of scraped through it, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know what you want to call it, just because of the whole loss and things didn't work out, et cetera, et cetera. But um, it was a rather interesting picture on a more realistic basis. If I'm not looking, if I'm looking this from an outsider Buccaneers perspective, That DB situation was looking funny and odd, and we need to change that for sure. So that's kind of just the way I see it, Santiago. But along with those DBs, let's not forget our friends who play safety. All right. Overall, Santiago, overall feelings about our kind of safety unit. Um, Definitely another kind of key piece, and moments where our starters had to step out, and then the backups had to step in, had to do the best they could, et cetera, et cetera. Um, the way I see it, Santiago, is kind of the same way I feel about the safeties with the DBs. Similar, A minus, whatever. I'll give them a B plus or whatever, just because I was maybe expecting a little bit more out of them. I'm happy, our starters did the best they could. Shout out to people like Mike Ballhawk Edwards. All right, but yeah, there are some people who are free agents as well. But listen, before we go into that, overall thoughts, and then we'll dive right into that kind of just people like Andrew Adams, Riley, and Jordan Whitehead, and how kind of relevant they are to the whole safety equation.
I mean, in general, being I was very amazed at how, for example, Cooper Cup from the Rams played, you know, and how of a weapon he was, and yeah, we did well in the game, versus the Rams, right? I mean, we came back, and that's what Tom Brady's known for. But it's just that overall, when we have players like a Cooper Cup that can do a lot of damage to opposing teams, and, we did, like you said before, like you were saying right now, we want to have people that can definitely not suffer, because we cannot keep having that other team get first downs, because it's going to be a long, long day or even night for our defense, our cornerbacks, our safety. So, I mean, overall, when we had injuries, you notice that part of the field did suffer, and and it's because of the depth, but some players can be better than others, but I'll give the score like an A minus for because we did go to the playoffs. It was just like in that one game versus the Rams where you notice that they did suffer a lot, but over and so I definitely would give it an A minus. When I look at for like a free safety like Anton Winfield Jr., he's a veteran. He's a veteran leader. Also, when I look at him, and he has, he, he's this is his second year in the NFL, right? And he's played every single game in the NFL. So he's a reliable player. Possibly he knows how to take care of his body on and off the field, which is very important as well, because on how athletes have to eat, have to maybe go to the gym, not get injured. I don't know, but you know, um, so overall, when you just said Jordan Whitehead, he's also another player that is very important to the Bucs as well, and he is an unrestricted free agent. So can he come back? It depends on the money. Depends on on what they're offering to give him and what he's willing to accept, right? Because there are possibly other teams out there that are maybe looking at a small safety like a safety like him, you know, and so I don't know. I mean, do you think that somebody like a Jordan Whitehead will come back? Do you think You think he'll maybe go somewhere else? I mean, what do you think, Musab? Do you think we should go into the draft and get somebody? We should look at maybe other safeties that are out in the market. What would you like to see?
I mean, I love Whitehead, and I would hate to lose him, honestly. Crucial player. The guy racked up, 2 interceptions, just right behind Mike Ballhawk Edwards. And I mean, just these last few seasons I've been seeing him. Uh, he's been a very key, crucial player. He's been coming through. There's been so many times where it's like, oh my God, he almost got the interception, or oh yeah, okay, hey, good looks, Whitehead. So this is definitely a big hole to fill. Listen, I mean, look, people like Mike Edwards and Winfield, they're doing a phenomenal job, but you always want to strengthen the core to the best of its ability. And taking someone like Whitehead out of the equation is going to be a little costly. So I definitely want to make sure that he stays. I hope he stays. I hope we work it out because he is really really important. Honestly, there's a few players where it's like, all right, hey, listen, with the situation right now, ideally, I think it's best you keep them. And with the whole kind of DB situation with our cornerbacks and safeties, uh, it's best that we keep, the trustworthy, good, the guys who can back it up, players. All right. So, and he is one of them. All right. He is one of them. And then, even along, hey, listen, even along with people like Andrew Adams and Curtis Riley, I didn't see too much action from them. So, I guess that maybe answers your question as to, all right, well, maybe we need to look in the draft or something, or maybe we need to find some other, undrafted free agent or unrestricted free agent. It don't matter. All right. Again, there's gonna need to be some moves made. But ideally, the way I see it is, I want to keep Whitehead, and then from there, we're gonna have to see. Overall picture, though, I do want to highlight just because this is kind of our last little main position on our defense. Is just that listen, I don't want to give the impression that we're gonna have to totally rebuild or this or that. We're gonna try to make the best happen. Signing back all the guys we can or whatever. But there is definitely gonna be this chunk of the pie this upcoming season that's going to be coming from who do we get during this off season, and a piece of that little chunk may have to do with our safety unit. What do you think of that, Santiago?
Yeah. Um, I agree. It's you know, like I said, we both agree, Musab, that we would love to see players like Jordan Whitehead back. Just hey, we want to give you this amount. All right, cool. I'm gonna take it. But it's not that. It's a business. They have to negotiate. They have value. They have many different. You know, just the players also looking for family. His because like we all know, American football is a very very tough sport. So you know, now it's just also depending on hmm, I would love to see Jordan Whitehead back, to be honest with you. I really would. It's he's a very important player. I mean, all the players are important, right? But I mean, he's a very important player, and looking at his statistics and stuff like that, like he's proven he has proved it. He really has. Um, he really does. And overall, the overall stat is the games played. The games that he's participated in, and ever since he's been a Buccaneer, he has been on the field, and that's what it is. That's what he's been out in the gridiron. So, you're right. I would definitely would not want him to definitely not want him to leave. Um, so I mean that's pretty much when I look at players like that, that's he's been here, his whole career at this moment. So definitely would not. And he's young. He's only 24 years of age. So he still has a lot of tank in the gas. Or gas. I'm sorry, gas in the tank. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. I do apologize.
The tank and the gas in the tank.
Yeah,
it don't matter.
Gas in the tank. Yeah, right. I said that wrong. I said that completely wrong. But you know what I mean. I mean, like like I said, we all agree. You have NFL experience, and NFL experience is way different from college experience, and we already know that. So, I'm just hoping that whichever player that comes back, and let's say, because we're talking about the defense now, that, because we said the defense wins championships, hey, we can definitely go to the Super Bowl next year. I would love to see that, honestly. So I definitely am hoping that a lot of these players that even are in free agency, unrestricted free agent stuff, they can come back, or whoever we get in the draft. I'm sorry, it's just that it's very, very hard to see some of these players go.
It is indeed, Santiago. But hey, I'm always here for you. And I also do want to give a shout out to all of our listeners. Listen, whether it be your first time listening to us, or hey, listen, you've been with us from the start. All right, I can't end this episode without saying thank you to all y'all. All right. And if you enjoyed this episode and you want to help us, support us, all right, support the podcast, all right, follow at RBLR Sports, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. But also, hey, to all my podcast fans out there, the ones listening to this episode right now, we are on Spotify. Tell your friends we're not just on Spotify, we're on Apple and Google Podcast. Oh my God, they don't have that either. No worries. All right. We got iHeartRadio. All right. You know what? Maybe they don't have a smartphone, or, maybe they don't like any of those apps, but, they can go to the local library and go on YouTube and other major podcast platforms and listen to some RBLR sports. Santiago, listen, we've had a lot to say, a lot of feelings expressed towards our defense. But, overall, I guess it was definitely fun, and I'm real happy. But any kind of final thoughts, final comments?
Let's go Bucs, man. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty much all I can say. Like, players will come and go, but the institution, the fan base, I'm gonna be there. I know you're gonna be there. And I'm just saying that let's go. Let's do our best. Let's go. The objective is defense wins championships, and let's prove that always whoever is in that Buck pewter uniform, and also Buck players, check out RBLR Sports. Check out the store. Get yourself some gear. Fans, get yourself some gear, and go Bucks. That's all I can say. That's really all I can say.
Amen, amen. We are in for a treat, ladies and gentlemen. Grab your popcorn. Think there's a lot to unravel this off season. But what I will say as well is, listen, stay fired up, because you know what? Some of y'all got that little calendar saying, oh, it's been 7 days since football ended, 8 days, 9 days, 10 days since football ended. All right, well, turn that thing around and put that little countdown till the preseason, till the regular season, all right? Because all we're doing right now is getting closer and closer to the upcoming season, all right? And I've said it before, no amount of guilt can change the past, and no amount of anxiety can change the future, ladies and gentlemen. All right? So, hey, listen, thanks again from Santiago and I. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into all things Buck-related on our defensive side. But you best believe we can't forget about the offensive side as well. All right, so tune in. But until then, thank you again. And as always, go Bucks.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.